Welcome to the next lecture. In this lecture, we are going to calculate monthly telephone bill using C++ language. Okay? So in this program, the data is given. We have to calculate the monthly bill using this data. Okay? So let's understand first what is that given data. So in this data, the program tells us that if user made 100 calls or less than 100 calls, then the minimum amount of bill is 200. Okay, so if user made 100 calls or less than 100 calls, then program should print 200 rupees bill, total bill 200 rupees. Okay, 200 rupees. Now in the next statement, the program tells us if user made 100 and next 50 calls, it means that 100 plus 50 150 calls. If user made 150 calls, then 0.60 rupees should be added in this amount. Okay, and if user made more 50 calls, it means 150 plus 50, 200 calls, then this amount should be added in the previous amounts. Okay, and the bill should be displayed, total bill should be displayed on the screen. In the last statement, the program tells us if the user made beyond 200 calls, it means more than 200 calls, then this amount should be added in the previous amounts. Okay, now the body of the program starts from here. In the first statement, some variables are initialized and declared according to the given data. Okay, so calls, bill, min. Now we know that the minimum amount is 200, so that's why we initialized variable min for 200 amount. Okay, it means we stored 200 in variable min. In next statement, now this statement is used to clear screen. Okay, so you can neglect this. In next statement, cout statement, the message should be displayed on the screen as it is. Okay, enter number of calls semicolon, this would be displayed like this. Okay, and using cin statement, we take number of calls from the user. Okay, now we see that we have multiple conditions, so we use if else if statement. Okay, so if user make 100 calls or less than 100 calls, then this amount should be printed. So for this we write this condition: calls is less than equal to 100, then this statement will be executed. Okay, and no other statement will be executed, and using cout statement, bill, total bill will be executed. Okay, so for example, if user enter 50 calls, then 50 is less than 100. Yes, true. So this statement will be executed, and this statement will be executed, and we know that if user made 100 or less than 100 calls, then the amount should be printed, 200 amount should be printed on the screen. Okay, so this statement, bill is equal to min, and the value of min is 200, so 200 will be stored in bill, and at the end 200 will be printed. Okay, so if user enter 110 calls, okay, for example, if user enter 110 calls, now this condition will be checked. Now 110 is less than equal to 100. No, that's not true. So next condition will be checked. Okay, So see, 110 is less than or equal to 100, so this is calls entered by user. Okay, and so this is not true, so this condition will not be executed. Now next condition will be checked. Calls is less than equal to 100, so 110 is less than 150. Yes, so this condition is true and this statement will be executed. So now let's understand this statement. Now this statement is bill equals min plus calls minus 100 multiplied by 0.6. Okay, so we know that if user enter 110 calls, then we are sure that 100 calls are made. 100 calls are made. Okay, so amount for 100 calls is 200 rupees, so this will be added. Okay, we know that we store this amount in variable min, so that's why we write here min. Okay, plus calls minus 100. Now this value in parentheses will tell you that how many more calls are made, than 100. Okay, for example, we have supposed that 110 calls are made by user. Okay, so 110 minus 100 is equal to 10. It means 10 more calls are made by user. Okay, so 100 plus 10 more calls are made by user, so that's why it's 110. So the amount of 100 calls, that is 200, and the amount for this will be added. Okay, so 0.6 is multiplied because for 150 calls, okay, more than 100 and less than 150 calls, this amount will be added into this amount. Okay, previous amount. So the value will be stored in bill. Okay, after calculating, this value will be stored in bill, and using cout statement, total bill will be displayed on screen. Okay, now this condition, for example, if another user enters 180 calls, okay, 180 calls, so you know that 180 is greater than 150, okay, and less than 200. Okay, so you know 180 is so first this condition will be checked. 180 is less than equal to 100. No. And next condition will be checked. 180 is less than equal to 150. No. So next condition will be checked. 180 is less than or equal to 200. So 180 is less than 200. So this condition will be executed, and this statement will be executed. Okay, so now we know that 180 means that 100 calls, okay, plus 50 calls plus 30 calls. Okay, so 100 plus 50 plus 30 is 180 calls. So it means that the amount for 100, that is 200, and the amount for 50, so it makes 100 and 150. The amount for 150 calls, that, and for 30, that will be added in the previous amounts, and total bill will be calculated for 180 calls. Okay, so minimum calls, so this is 200, will be added into the next 50 calls, like this, 100 calls into the next 50 calls. So for next 50 calls we have to add 0.6 in this amount. Okay, so 50 calls multiplied by 0.6 are added into this, plus now this value will again tell that how many more calls are made than 150. How many more calls are made than 150? Okay, how many more calls? So for example, 180 minus 150, so that's 30. Okay, so 30 into 0.5, that's 0.5. So this will be calculated and stored in the variable bill, and using cout statement, total bill will be displayed. Okay, so the next condition is else. So what if user enters beyond 200 calls, like 300, like 201? That's also beyond the more than 200. Okay, or 1000 calls, then what will happen? So it's same, previous amounts will be added, and this value will tell that how many more calls are made than 200 calls. Okay, and will be multiplied with the amount 0.4. So the value will be stored in bill, and using cout statement, the total bill will be displayed on screen like this. So that's it.